Hello friends, welcome to the Hindu News analysis of 3rd June 2020 presented by La Excellence IAS. Before we start with the analysis of today's Hindu newspaper, we have a small announcement with respect to online live general studies prelims comes mains 2021 batch. Admissions have been started. With respect to information about the admissions, you can call, SMS or WhatsApp on 9052193939. You can also call to any of our branch office numbers at Hyderabad Ashok Nagar and Madhapur or Sri Gayatri Residential Campus and Bengaluru Chandra Layout branch. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel had famously described the Indian administrative service as the steel frame upon which rest of the bureaucracy would rest, a bastion of India's best and brightest that would ensure continuity of good governance irrespective of regime change. However, over the decades since independence, doubts have been expressed in many quarters about whether the steel frame is still strong or if it has become rusty and weak. We see many of the times in the newspaper, and it has provided a good news that much needed transformation is slowly but steadily rolling on. And it is happening due to dynamic and dedicated IAS officers who are bringing in fresh ideas, unwilling to be stifled by red tapeism, and who took forward the changing of the country for the better. Today, we will be speaking about one of the IAS officers who has taken a step forward and gone beyond to make a difference in the lives of many in 2017. One of the officer is Prashant Nair IAS. Prashant Nair IAS sir is a 2007 batch IAS officer of Kerala cadre who has been recently appointed as Secretary to the Minister of State for Tourism. He has much earned the acclaim or public acclaim for kickstarting a slew of popular initiatives as a collector of Kozhikode. His innovative ideas such as Operation Sulaimani, a decentralized participatory project to address hunger in urban areas, Tere Bere Beach Mein, a project to tackle waste management at Kozhikode Beach, and Yo Apupa, an attempt to improve the quality of life of an elderly, were huge runaway success, thanks to the large and wholehearted participation of people of the coastal city and beyond. Affectionately, Prashant Nair IAS is called as Collector Bro. He is famous for a unique proposal he has pushed forward to the people in his district. He offered a free plate of Malabar biryani to every individual who pitches in to clean a 14-acre pond in Koyalandi. Unsurprisingly, the idea was a resounding success. And in order to know about Prashant Nair IAS, when he was at the age of, during his childhood, when he was at the age of 9 or 10 years old, once he visited to the college or medical college principal of Thiruvananthapuram with his mother with relating to service related work. When he visited there, he was very much upset or he was disturbed with one of the moment there happened. The principal did not even give a moment to take care or to listen to the mother or to his mother who has visited to meet the principal. However, with his mother, later on, he visited to the higher officials, that is health secretary of Thiruvananthapuram, health secretary, and when he visited there, there was a bearded man sitting with a smiling face and compassionate enough to speak to his mother about her problem, and he was strong enough or powerful enough to get her problem resolved within a few minutes. When he came out of the secretariat office, he asked his mother, "Who is that man?" The mother replied, "The man is a civil service officer or an IAS officer." When he turned back, when he was walking on in the corridor, he saw below the name was attached with an IAS. That was an inspiration or that was a moment when Prashant Nair thought of becoming a civil servant. Today, the same compassion, the same morals, the same values, what he has learned from his childhood has made him today's collector bro of IAS. So many of the friends, senior officers mockingly call him collector bro also. So this is the change or this is the values which we need to take forward in order to realize or in order to make sure the dream thought of by our forefathers like Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel to make Indian administrative service as the steel frame of the country. So with this, let us move to today's articles. So today we have around 6 articles with respect to editorials, and respective page numbers with respect to Hyderabad and Bangalore edition have been given here. And in targeted news analysis, we will be looking after 2 articles. One is with respect to 60 million could be punished into poverty, and another electronic incentive scheme launched. So today's first art, and with respect to this, we have a link provided here in order to download notes in the PDF format, and you can write everyday current affairs daily test quiz from 9:30 p.m. in our website of 10 MCQs of the articles whatever you are reading every day from the Hindu newspaper. Today's first article is multilateralism in the new Cold War. This article can be related for prelims in current events of national and international importance, and with respect to mains under GS paper 2 international relations section, the knowledge of this article will be helpful. In this article, we will be able to understand the shift and the changes in the global, political, economic and social order, and we will try to understand the role India can play in the new multilateral global order. So here we will start with the definition of new Cold War, which is defined by technology and trade and not territory. Under these circumstances, non-alignment movement or non-alignment is an uncertain option. To benefit from the present global change, countries must have a bold vision and make a right strategic choice, where we have seen in the colonial period that British was able to conquer India with the help of establishing a largest military in the subcontinent using land revenue of Bengal. And in another case, we can understand that US fixated on splitting the communist bloc ended up in China's challenging the dominance. As we have got to know that India has been appointed as the chair of Executive Board of World Health Assembly, the India can set a global response in terms of multilateralism and not in terms only of medical issues. However, in near future, we will be attending United Nations General Assembly, where the theme will be the future we want, and India will be joining United Nations Security Council in 2021, and in 2022 we will be hosting G20 summit also. Recently concluded online summit of non-alignment movement, wherein Prime Minister Narendra Modi came up with a new principle of international system. His new globalization model, which was based on humanity, fairness, equality, had wide support in more equal world as far as first time since 1950. As China is losing its influence and dynamics in relation to US, Asia is again becoming the central to global prosperity with global governance, economy, scientific research and society which is being reinvented. We have an opportunity to recover our global thought leadership. Think Nalanda, astronomical computation, the zero, Ayurveda, Buddhism, yoga, ahimsa, as well as the clothing the world for millennia. We have been seeing there has been a clash of values between China and US, which was there, or we can confer from recently concluded World Health Assembly, which was conducted in May, and it marks the end of 70 years of multilateralism. And there has been a shift in the donor-recipient relationship between developed and developing countries, where China pledged $2 billion rupees. And the G7 country, or the G7, which was an agenda-setting role over UN nations and global rules, has been effectively challenged by WHO. Here, we need to understand the clashes here mark another seismic shift within the UN. During or after Cold World War II, the newly independent states were consulted, or the newly independent states were not consulted when US imposed global institutions fostering trade, capital and technology dependence, ignoring socio-economic development. However, in today's scenario, socio-economic rights have been emerged as an important political and procedural rights. The US faces another uphill task in the present new multidimensional institution where China is re-emerging based on technology, innovation, trade balancing. With West experiencing a shock which was similar to the shock which was experienced by Asia 200 years ago, the superiority of Western civilization is also under question. For India, the issue is neither adjustment to China's power or deterrence to US leadership. China has come out with an alternative governance mechanism to the US dominated International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and WTO with its all encompassing Belt and Road Initiative. The global vacuum, shift in relative power, and its potential provides India a capacity to articulate a winning multilateralism as a NAM plus, non-alignment plus, which resonates the large parts of the world and brings both BRICS and G7 into the tent. This new multilateralism should rely on outcomes, not rules. Security downplayed for comparable levels of well-being and a new P5 that is not based on the G7. Here we have seen various scenarios, various clashes of values and various situations where for India a new opportunity is coming up. So India has to tap this opportunity and try to create a new world order, or it has to go through few changes where we need to consider the following things. One, new multilateralism with peaceful coexistence, freezing post-colonial sovereignty, non-interference in internal matters in the need of the hour. 25-year-old trade rule created intellectual property, monopolies should be ended, and global public goods should be announced with respect to health, crop research, renewable energy, etc. And on the home front, India must replace capital intensive arm imports with technology driven national security like artificial intelligence, cyber, and space. Here, we need to understand this entire article is speaking about colonial agenda where countries with strategic bold vision were able to conquer the new world order, and in between the clashes or the present pandemic is providing an opportunity for India to re-emerge as or recover its global leadership thought process which we had. So we need to understand the overall dimensions of this article, and these dimensions will help us in answering questions about how the impact of COVID-19 is creating new trends that are emerging in world, including signs of new Cold War, and how India can rewrite new multilateralism. So with this, let us move to the next article. In this article, a reformative and fiscal package, the government's 20 lakh crore stimulus package addresses immediate concerns and also pushes for long-term reforms. This analysis of this article will be helpful for us with respect to current events of national and international importance for prelims perspective, and for mains GS paper 2 government policies and interventions and issues involved in their design and implementation, and under GS paper 3 Indian economy issues related to mobilization of resources, growth and development. Analysis of this article will help us to understand the short-term and long-term reforms introduced under the stimulus package and the benefits that comes out of the reforms. So as we have all read about the fiscal stimulus package given of 20 lakh crores by the government into various sectors, we will be understanding about the significance and how it is going to push the long-term reforms into various sectors. With respect to significance of this package, if we understand that government is trying to balance the stimulus demand from different sectors and also trying to contain the fiscal burden on the exchequer. This package is to provide immediate support for the most distressed sections like micro, small, and medium enterprises and migrant workers. The package is trying to push the long term reforms with respect to agriculture, real estate, reforms in financial sector and infrastructure sector. Coming to agriculture, long term agriculture reforms like freeing up the agriculture supply chain, reducing the hegemony of agriculture produce market committees, encouraging direct online transactions between farmers and buyers is included into this reform. Coming to real estate, waivers of penalties to be paid by real estate developers for delay in project deliveries, extension of registration, completion dates of projects under RERA, and extension of credit link subsidy schemes for middle income group housing. Under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, these measures will help to push real estate developers towards more projects. Coming to financial sector reforms, RBI's recent rate cuts, including latest repo rate cut to 4%, repo rate cut to 4%, and other key measures like long-term repo operations to 2 open market operations have boosted liquidity in the banking sector. There are other provisions which have been taken care in order to push the long-term reforms in the financial sector, like NBFCs are provided with 30,000 crore liquidity facility, a 45,000 crore partial credit guarantee, and a 50,000 crore refinancing facility for NABARD, CDB and National Housing Board. A 6 months moratorium on loan repayments covering all banks and shadow lenders was starting from 1st March 2020. Coming to infrastructure financial reforms, an injection of 90,000 crores liquidity into DISCOMs, reform in tariff policy, privatization of distribution in union territories. Measures were announced for the defense sector which are meant to push indigenous production and participation of private sectors in India's space programs. So overall, the article helps us to understand that there was a creation of level playing field between defense public sector units and private companies. Investments in health infrastructure is much more needed, where currently country is spending only 1.2% of GDP on health. An allocation of 50,000 crores and VGF for social infrastructure products are small steps needed for collaboration of private companies like L&T, which is ready to build to use hospitals. With the overall analysis of the article, we will be understanding that government's stimulus package addresses both immediate concerns and pushes for long-term reforms. But investment in social sector should also be increased. This article is with respect to monsoon bounty, where it says the IMD should work at disseminating more precise localized weather forecast. Here, this article can be used in relation with current events of national and international importance and Indian geography for prelims. And with respect to mains, under GS paper 1, geography section, it will be helpful. And under GS paper 2, statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial bodies, this section can be of useful. Here we will be understanding or learning about the criteria adopted by IMD to declare onset of monsoon, and we will be developing our knowledge with respect to the precision in IMD forecasts and challenges involved in forecasting. So before understanding the content of this article, let us understand about Indian Meteorological Department. So Indian Meteorological Department, which is known as IMD, it was formed in 1875 as the chief government agency to deal with everything related to meteorology and seismology and associated subjects. However, we need to know that it comes under the supervision of Ministry of Earth Sciences. Recently, we have seen the forecast of monsoons by IMD and private organizations, where in May IMD had forecast that there will be a 4 days delay in the onset of monsoons over Kerala. However, private meteorological companies had forecast an early monsoon by May 28th. But in the last week of May, IMD updated its onset forecast to say that favorable conditions for the monsoon and monsoon is likely to see on June 1st. So first we need to understand what are the criteria used by IMD to forecast or declaring the onset of monsoons. So there are three conditions. First conditions, 8 of the 14 designated stations or meteorological stations in Kerala and Karnataka must register at least 2.5 mm rain for 2 consecutive days. This is the first condition. The second condition says there must be a 30 to 40 kilometer per hour westerlies at a certain height and a certain value of radiations. And the third condition says heavy rains over Kerala alone do not determine onset. So these three conditions are taken into consideration while IMD declaring about the onset of monsoons. However, there are few challenges to the IMD prediction. What are those challenges? First thing, it is competition of domestic and international companies in providing weather related services. In crop insurance, power distribution and short range forecast, IMD no longer has monopoly. It is in providing weather related informations. And the third is failure of IMD to communicate in 2019 would turn out to be the wettest in 2 decades. The complexity of climate change in prediction of weather. So these are the 4 challenges for the prediction of IMD. However, it is necessary that along with improved science and forecasting, the IMD works on disseminating more precise or localized weather forecast. So, with this information of the article, we will be able to understand the recent forecast by IMD, which is shown that there are some flaws in its prediction and more challenges are emerging to IMD. IMD must improve science of forecasting and it must disseminate more localized weather forecast is the opinion presented in the article. This article speaks about the challenge of law enforcement post COVID-19. This article can be related with current events of national and international importance for prelims perspective, and with respect to mains under GS paper 2 governance, important aspects of governance, and under GS paper 3 internal security and security challenges. Under this article, we will be understanding about the nature of crimes have changed during lockdown, and we will also understand the capacity of building of police forces to tackle these new situations. Here, we need to understand that COVID-19 had turned the world upside down and there was hardly any aspect of life which was untouched. In this situation, the strict maintenance of public order was most essential so that the affected by the disease could be looked after and given the best medical care. We knew that during this situation, law enforcement was next to healthcare in its criticality, and police had taken enormous risk during the lockdown to ensure strict observation of guidelines. In India, being the second most populated country, following the social distancing norms rule was the most difficult thing. However, law enforcement agencies were successful in order to maintain the law enforcement rules whatever are being provided. However, here we need to understand the future law enforcement and new pattern of crime to be managed given the virus if it is going to stay for a long time. Police have to introspect on its recent experience and draft a comprehensive SOP that will educate all policemen in the country and take the future virus wave if any. Here we need to understand the police was able to successfully manage the law enforcement with the cooperation of public, without which it would have been a chaos. In this experience lies a lesson, a building block for future public and police relationship. And during this, the enforcement of law was also possible with the help of social media to disseminate all relevant information to majority of population in both rural and urban areas. During this situation, what had helped the police was the fact that roads were deserted and traffic was nearly zero, because of which traffic accidents and fatalities caused by such accidents, along with this, antisocial elements could be kept at the bay. A major survey has helped us to understand that during this lockdown, there was a drastic fall in the crimes because antisocial elements were confined to home, trespass and burglary also become more difficult crimes to commit. Delhi police has reported a 70% fall in heinous crimes, that is murders and rapes, between April 1st and 15 compared to the same period last year. And Chennai police has declared that there was a 79% fall in the March 25th to April 15th period during the same period compared February 25th to March 15th period. The registration of cases by the police and general reluctance of the public to report crimes, particularly difficult times such as pandemic, the police can be proud that it managed to keep the peace during this lockdown period. However, on the next stage, we saw an increase in the domestic violences. There was, in Tamil Nadu, for instance, there were around 2,943 or 963 calls about domestic violence in April alone. What were the reasons for the increase in domestic violence when it was studied? The data shows that violence increased when there was greater unemployment. Since men were at home either without work or fear of losing their job, the men caused tensions at home and unfortunately, women become the victim of his tension. And the second reason what data showed was it was non-availability of liquor, which caused another tension among men who were habituated to drinking daily. However, past experiences have shown that during 2013 and 16, when there was Ebola outbreak in Africa, there was an increase in sexual and gender violence in Africa. As health workers were busy combating the pandemic, there is little help for domestic violence victims during times such as this. However, we need to understand here is that pandemic is both threat to and an opportunity for organized crime, especially illicit drug. Travel restrictions across border, especially in Africa, have made international trade in drug extremely difficult. There is another crime which has been in trend and rising, that is cyber crime. New portals were launched to get people to donate money for the cause of combating COVID-19. Experts say that fraudulent sites were designed and large number of people were easily taken as a ride. There was another major challenge for public officials was keeping prisons free of virus. Many prisons has taken steps to insulate prisoners who reported positive for the virus from the rest of the inmates. Some human rights activists also asked for complete evacuation of prisons, irrespective of whether a prisoner tests positive or not. But such a drastic move will make a mockery of the criminal justice system and expose society to many unrepentant violent offenders. Therefore, on March 24th, Supreme Court created a high-powered committee and it directed the states and union territories to consider releasing convicts who have jailed up to 7 years on parole in order to decongest prisons. The pandemic and lockdown have ensured that many crimes have gone down. However, many crimes have also gone up or will assume new forms in the new future. As we are able to, or as we are entering the unlock mode, it is incumbent on law enforcement officials to think of ways of dealing with new challenges in maintaining law and order is the essence of the entire article what we have read. So this entire article could be summarized under 4 headings what we have seen till now. So this will be the challenge for the law enforcement and need for new standard operating procedure considering the experiences what we have gone through from March 24th till today. So this will be an input with respect to restructuring of security forces. With this, let us move to the next article. This article is related to seizing the moment at WHO. The analysis of this article will be helpful for us in current events of national and international importance for prelims perspective and under mains GS paper 2 international relations, important global institutions and their mandate. The overall analysis of the article will help us to understand the recent developments and controversies surrounding WHO at a time when India chairs WHO executive bodies. And we will also be understanding about the policy approach to be adopted by India to deal with the present issues. So first, we will be understanding about WHO. So it is a UN specialized agency for health which was founded in 1948, which is headquartered at Geneva in Switzerland. There are 194 member states and 150 country offices and 6 regional offices. It is a intergovernmental organization which works in collaboration with member states, usually through Ministry of Health. WHO provides leadership on global health matters, shaping the health research agenda, articulating evidence-based policies, technical support to countries and monitoring, assessing health trends. Executive board is composed of 34 individuals technically qualified in the field of health, and each one of is designated by member state elected to do so by the World Health Assembly. Member states are elected for a period of 3 years term and the board meets at least twice in a year. The main function of executive board is to give effect to decisions and policies of Health Assembly. So this is the background with respect to World Health Organization and executive board. Now let us go and check into the article's analysis. There we can understand that Harshavardhan, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, was elected the chair of World Health Organization Executive Board, which is a 34 member body tasked with implementing decisions of Health Assembly. It offered India an important platform to steer the global health response to COVID-19. It also comes with time when WHO is being rocked by various politically from different directions. Mr. Trump has threatened to make permanent his temporary funding freeze as well as reconsider US membership in the organization if the latter did not commit to major substantive reforms within 30 days. And China has pledged $2 billion for WHO. In the present situation, what can be the India's response? If we can see, first it should focus, or its foremost priority should be to endemic prevention, and India should lean on the WHO Secretariat to fast track the impartial, independent and comprehensive review. India must promote the establishment of appropriate multilateral governance mechanism for ensuring equitable access to COVID-19. So here, India, which was elected to chair of Executive Council of WHO, which came in much significant time, and India should use this opportunity and seize this opportunity and work to control the pandemic is the total essence of the article. This article, scripting a new narrative for COVID control, In the analysis of the article will help us with current affairs or current events of national and international events for prelims perspective, and under GS paper 2 issues related to health section will be beneficial. Analysis of this article will help us to understand about the India's approach to tackle pandemic and the limitations involved in the approach. And we will be able to learn about the new initiative to be taken by India to deal with the pandemic. Here, if social vaccine is the legacy of HIV control, that of novel coronavirus control ought to be far more reaching, is the opinion of MS Sridhari and T. Jacob John, the authors of the article. Under this article, here we will be reading that if social vaccine is the legacy of HIV control, that of novel coronavirus control ought to be far more reaching. Here we had a warning over COVID-19 epidemic in China spreading to neighboring countries well ahead of virus importation. Yet nation flattered. One has to understand, in epidemics as in war, underestimating the enemy is always a costly mistake. Here we need to remember words of Eisenhower, where he says, in preparing for a battle I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. Strategy planning is dynamic. With the revisions as the ground reality changes, what is appropriate in the beginning may become redundant midway, was the opinion Eisenhower has expressed. India early strategy succeeded, but importation from the West and West Asian countries before they were red flagged seeded local outbreaks in several places. That is where, as transmission was happening through social contacts, social distancing in its extreme form was declared early and abruptly from March 24th midnight. Here we need to understand the India's approach of controlling till now was aligned with WHO guidelines, which included international travel ban, especially from China, physical distancing and testing. However, there are some limitations with respect to that. COVID-19, which became a community spread, was denied for too long, promoting epidemic expansion and deaths, particularly among healthcare personnels. Early warning and public education would have slowed the epidemic and saved the lives. Everyone needed behavior modification to protect themselves when in physical closeness in clinics and crowds. The article speaks about the new ways to tackle pandemic, specific epidemiological and clinical criteria, and basic blood tests provide a clinical diagnosis of COVID-19. PCR is useful in order to confirm the COVID-19. Home quarantine of all with mild symptoms is simple and safe. Their medical supervision could be done through daily phone calls with assigned doctors. For those with breathing difficulty, an X-ray chest of CT scan identifies pneumonia. This approach would have fetched us more gains for less expenses. Targeted care for the age of above 60 years and those with diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, chronic respiratory and obesity by quarantining them effectively. There is a need to form a COVID-19 committee as a practical platform in every district with representatives from civil administration, health management, professionals, industries to identify facilitators and deterrent preventive processes and practices and evolve locally relevant solution for COVID-19 control now. With this, we can understand that the WHO guidelines to control pandemic may not be suitable to India, but India must develop new methods to control pandemic. So this is all about the essence of the article what we have read till now. Let us move on to the next article. This article, 60 million could be pushed into poverty, is read in context of recent global economic prospect report released by World Bank. This article will be helpful for us with respect to current events of national and international importance for prelims, and under mains and GS paper 2 issues related to poverty and hunger, and for paper 2 important international institutions and their mandate. With the analysis of this article, we will be able to understand about the findings in the Global Economic Prospects report of World Bank. So with starting, we will be understanding about World Banks, and over the period of the analysis, we will know about Global Economic Prospects report and highlights of this report. So initially, speaking about World Bank, it was created with the aim of working for sustainable solution that reduces poverty and builds prosperity in developing countries. It is a 189 members assembly which was established on the lines of Bretton Woods Conference, initially to help the countries to build which were demolished during World War II. Together with International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is called as IBRD, and IDA, International Development Association, formed the World Bank. The primary function is to provide financing, policy advice, and technical assistance to governments of developing countries. The Global Economic Prospects report, which we are speaking about in this article, will be released by World Bank, which projects the outlook for global economic growth, keeping in view the latest happenings which may impact the economic growth. It is released twice in a year, usually in the month of January and June. The June 2020 version is yet to be released fully. The highlights of the report shows us that gloomy outlook released, uncertainties warned because of US-China trade war. The report did not take into consideration the impact of coronavirus. However, June report had mentioned the impacts of COVID. In January report, it projected the weakest growth since global financial crisis. Growth among advanced countries had declined by 1.4 percentage in 2020, and growth in emerging countries and developing countries will rise 4.1 percentage. The emerging market economies, which is being spoken in this article, an emerging market economy is an economy of developing nation that is becoming more engaged with global markets as it grows. Countries classified as emerging market economies are those with some characteristics of developing or developed market. Currently, some important emerging markets are India, Mexico, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil. Risks in emerging market economies can include political instability, domestic infrastructure problems, and currency volatility, etc. So, with the understanding of World Bank, Global Economic Prospects reports summary, and about knowledge of emerging markets, let us see into the analysis of the article provided. The article says Global Economic Prospect reports mention that COVID pandemic is expected to show severe and long effects on global economic growth. Around 60 million people could be pushed into poverty in 2020 because of this pandemic. Greater debt transparency, faster advances in digital connectivity would help in faster recovery. Also the decline in US, Euro and China would affect EMDEs. 1% fall in output in these economies would end up EMDEs witnessing 1.3 percentage fall with a year lag. So here we are talking that emerging market economies are expected to have 3 to 8 percentage output loss, as these may undergo health crisis, restrictions and external shocks like falling trade, tourism, etc. So EMDEs are completely dependent upon US, Euro and China, where the decline will have direct impact over EMDEs fall. So with this analysis, we will be able to understand the prospects given in the report, and which will help us in order to understand the effect of COVID pandemic on economy. Let us move to next article. This article, electronics incentive schemes launched. Three schemes approved in March with a 48,000 crore outlay to boost manufacturing of mobiles. The analysis of this article will help us to current events of national and international events in prelims perspective, and under mains GS paper 2 government policies and interventions in various sectors and issues involved in their designing and implementation. Analysis of this article helps us to develop an understanding about the performance of electronic sector in India and helps us to be aware of various incentives announced by the government to promote the sector. Under this article, we will be reading about production linked incentive scheme for large scale industries and scheme for promotion of manufacturing of electronic components and semiconductors and modified electronic manufacturing cluster scheme. So before going into the analysis of the article, let us understand about these three schemes. So the production linked incentive scheme is a financial incentive to boost manufacturing and attracting large investments. The target in the electronic components and semiconductor arenas. In order to provide incentives, base year will be taken into consideration and companies will be given incremental sales or incentives based on the incremental sales compared to the base year. However, the goods or this would be applicable to the goods manufactured in India and those covered under the scheme. Specific electronic components and mobile phones are the targeted goods here. Domestic value addition for mobile phones is expected to raise by 35% to 40% by 2025, whereas the current level is 20 to 25%, and it will generate additional 8 lakh jobs directly or indirectly. In this year's economic survey, where the major focus is upon wealth creation, creation of job opportunities is one of the major road towards creating $5 trillion economy by 2025. So developments in these sectors will help us creating additional 8 lakh jobs is a remarkable future. The next scheme for promotion of manufacturing of electronic components and semiconductors, it's a financial incentive of 25% of capital expenditure for the manufacturing of goods that constitute the supply chain of electronic products. For the implementation, the budget granted 3,285 crores for 8 years. And the last scheme is Modified Electronics Manufacturing Cluster Scheme. It's EMC 2.0 scheme which will provide assistance up to 50% of the project cost for setting up electronic manufacturing cluster projects. Electronic manufacturing cluster projects to be set up under the scheme will be spread in the area of 200 acres across India and 100 acres in Northeast. The analysis of the article says these three incentive schemes or these three electronic incentive schemes launched with an outlay of 48,000 crores is to boost large scale manufacturing of electronics. These three schemes are production linked incentives which provides 41,000 crore outlay targeted at manufacturing mobiles, incentivizes 5 local and 5 global firms. Target is to manufacture electronics worth 8 lakh crores and generate employment for about 10 lakh people in the coming years. So these three schemes are to boost the electronic manufacturing in India have been launched. So this is the understanding about the entire article. Class, we have prelims practice questions given here. The first question says, consider the following list: Germany, India, Italy, USA, Japan and China. Which of the following countries are members of G7? Second question says, in the context of cyclone Nisarga, which is in news recently, consider the following statements about conditions favorable for formation of cyclone. Statement 1 says large sea surface with temperature more than 27 degrees Celsius, absence of coriolis force, a pre-existing weak low pressure. Select the correct answer from the codes given below. Thank you. This is all about the Hindu newspaper analysis of 3rd June 2020. Keep reading, stay healthy, all the best. Thank you.